everyone, Matt Pisarcik from Razor Emporium coming at you today for a quick how to load an injector razor. Well, you may have seen one of these on the market, you may have heard of injectors, you may be kind of wondering, what's an injector? I'm scared. It looks weird. It's not like a double-edged razor. How do I put the blade in? How do I get the blade out? Ah! Whatever the case is, we're going to answer those today. I have used injectors on and off for many years. I've done lots of shave review videos here. You guys can check those out on our channel. But I like injectors. I'm a fan. That stiff blade that's characteristic of the injector is a different experience than double edge. If you have ingrown hairs or you have sensitive skin, it can kind of be a really good tool for you to try in the toolbox you have in your shave den, right? A lot of people kind of liken them to straight razors in terms of that more kind of, I know I said it, stiff blade, just a little more efficient feeling. It's really good. Try it if you haven't. But a lot of people are kind of intimidated or scared, and we're gonna dispel all those fears right now with how to load them. I'm first gonna grab a modern injector. This is made by Parker. This is their adjustable injector. And now, truth be told, it is very much based off of an old Schick injector adjustable razor from like the 60s. It's cool because you can change the way it shaves with a little turn of the dial. I'm gonna grab the Parker blade. These are also made by Parker, right? So Parker and Parker. You're gonna notice on any injector, there's gonna be the right side and the wrong side. Right and left. The right side's going to have this bigger kind of opening you'll see on one side of the head, and the left will be more closed, right? And you want to put this injector key, as it's called, into that slot all the way until you hear it, firmly click and it's lined up. And that's a good thing. Where you see this, there's no gap, it's square, it's flush, all these, carpentry words. And it looks like a good match, because what you're going to do is use this little tiny slide and actually slide the injector blade on, and now the blade's actually inside the razor, and we're going to pull the key out, and you got a blade all lined up, and it's right there. And you're saying to yourself, man, that's really awesome, but how do I get the new blade on? You do the exact same thing. It's really cool. You put it right back on, line it up, and again, you're going to slide another blade, and what happens? What happens? Your old blade gets pushed out, okay? And you can now shave comfortably with this guy. And if you're wondering, the whole reason we have these is actually from Colonel Jacob Schick, who was in World War I, and he liked this whole idea of rifles that you had like a magazine for, and you could just load a bunch of rounds into a rifle really quickly, and he liked that. You didn't have to touch the bullets. So he kind of took that same idea. This is like back in like 1923, and he made what was called the magazine repeating razor, which later became the Schick Repeating Razor Company. Whole video we've done just on that. Anywho, so there's a modern Parker. Now another really popular one you may have seen is Supply. Ugh. There we go. It was really in there. It's firm packaging. That's good. These guys are made famous on Shark Tank, and they also have a modern, injector razor. Now they do something a little bit different. They have their own brand of Supply branded keys, and I actually found out that they're not compatible, at least with some of these vintage ones. I tried it and it didn't work. So let's try it on the Supply with Supply. So I put this key in again, and we're gonna slide it over, and look at that. It's loaded. Now, one thing to note on any of these is to make sure, and we'll make sure we get a real extreme close-up, to make sure that the blade is resting above these tiny little ears on the guard face. The face of the guard's got these two little kind of, I call them ears or stops, like blade stops, and that's so that your blade doesn't slide forward. If for any reason your blade is on top of those, or it's not positioned, you can use, I just use kind of like my thumbnail, and I can kind of gently push, not the sharp edge, but just the side of the blade, and I can kind of reposition a little bit. Just make sure, obviously this is a small little mechanism, and you're more or less kind of opening the clamp when you slide this key in of the head, and you're putting this in, and when you pull it out, it kind of closes that. And so things can happen. It can get a little bit jostled or a little bit loose or whatever. Just make sure before you start shaving. I've done it, and with that blade not there, and it's a very different shaving experience. It'll scrape and cut, so don't do that. And last but not least, so we got the supply loaded, we got the Parker loaded, and I'm gonna do a vintage Schick, the OG. This is like from the 30s. You can just tell with the Bakelite handle and the gold, plating on here. Again, same big slot on one side. It even says insert key, and it shows an arrow. And isn't it cool that this old razor from the 1930s and today's modern Schick injector, key, or Parker injector key here can still work and still be functional and make loading really easy. And again, look how beautiful you can see, especially with that gold finish there, that the blade is resting securely above those little stops. So we're in a good spot. You can go to town, right? I'll do one last one here. This is another kind of mid-century. This is a 1950s PAL. The PAL Injectomatic, right? It's got a little longer handle. And we're gonna, again, load it. Locked and loaded. The loading is the most important part. Really make sure it's nice and even, in a good spot. And that did not go as planned. It's half hanging out. But maybe it's a good thing. I can show you that, let's say your blade's half hanging out like that. I can actually just kind of gently put this on my counter, maybe. There we go. And hey, another good example, not being loaded properly. I can actually, just with the corner of my thumb, my thumbnail, I could easily and safely put that blade into place. We may have to adjust this a little bit. It also may be one that's just not as compatible with this. I was kind of looking at it as I went to put it in, and it looked slightly at different heights. You saw it went in perfectly with the Schick brand. I'm wondering if this PAL Injectomatic had a slightly proprietary key from the 50s. It looked like with just a slight amount of adjustment, I was able to get it in, but to be noted. And that's one of the things with, you buy these vintage things, vintage razor, you hope that it's compatible to today's accessories. It probably was just, slightly off when I started, but I think it's actually a good lesson, and you can see that it could be off, and you can kind of just quickly realign it. And once it went in, I heard it snap in place behind the little blade stops, we're good to go. So, now one thing to note about injector razors is that they don't have as much variety of blades. We're used to double-edged blades, all these different brands. You have all these different brands of blades over here. Which one do I choose? Oh, I like this one. I like this one. Oh, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. Yeah, well, when it comes to injectors, you don't have quite as much variety. Supply has two different ones, right? They got the platinum and the white label, right? And I'm guessing these just are going to correspond to maybe the sharpness, right? And that kind of thing. It's a little bit more premium. Parker just has the one. And I know for a fact these are made by the only manufacturer in the USA that makes these. And you could figure it out quickly who makes these. I know who it is. I have seen for the Schick stuff, I have seen there's one in Japan that makes a Schick branded injector key, but that's one downfall. You don't have as much variety. There's probably only 2, 3, 4 different injector keys on the market because it is more of a specialty razor. So you don't have all this variety. But I've personally found that you can kind of get by with that by having an adjustable like this where you can kind of dial it to your preference. Or I've just been really happy with the blades. I've used the supply blades. I've been really happy. Never thought it was dull or whatever. And I've been really happy with these Parker blades. Same as Ted Pella. So yeah, that's all I got. If you were wondering about how to load an injector or kind of more of these specifics, now you know if you didn't know. If you like injector razors, if you've injected improper like I showed today, it was planned, of course. Tell me below in the comments what you think. What's your favorite brand? Are there more brands that I don't know of? I want to know. Tell me below. And if you do, tell me you're interested into one of these. The official Razor Emporium black and blue t-shirt. That's all I got for today's how-to video. We'll see you next time at Razor Emporium for all things vintage shaving. Thanks, guys.